Today we're going to create an order in ACI Sky Workbench. To get started, you'll go ahead and click the Create Order button. Information required to create an order is an appraiser reference ID, report type, due date, the address, and then you can go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and enter in all the necessary information. All 3.6 report types are in Workbench, but for today's order, we're going to do a URAR. As you start to type in the address, Google will suggest addresses to help narrow down your search. Clicking on the address will fill in the rest of the information, and we can go ahead and get started on our order. Once the order is created, it's going to take you to our assignment information page where any Google Images, Street View, Maps will go ahead and load on here. Today, we're going to focus on the report itself, and that we can start by navigating through our progress tracker on the far left-hand side. So we can click on Assignment Information, and that's going to load us on the very first page of our URAR report. To give a bit of an introduction to the key characteristics for the order we're going to be creating. This report is for a single-family, detached, ranch-style home with 1,260 square feet on one level. There's a driveway and a deck. Now, the assignment reason we got from the client, this is for a refinance transaction. This is a traditional appraisal. Our construction method for the subject property is site-built, and this appraisal is going to be made as is with no defects, no damages, nor deficiencies to the subject property. Let's go ahead and get started. So let's get started in the assignment section. Like I said, this is a refinance, so we'll go ahead and click on our drop-down, go through our list, and select refinance. Property valuation method, this is a traditional appraisal. The rest of the options here are what we call radio buttons. So it's a quick yes or no selection. Was a property data report used? No. We are going to be developing sales comparison approach. There's no cost approach, no income approach, no rent schedule. Site value is not developed by the appraiser in this instance. And because this is for the purpose of a demo, we're just going to enter a 0 here and nothing on the AMC fee. Is this a government agency appraisal? No, it is not. But I do want to show you some dynamic nature here. If I say, yes, it is, change my answer, we're going to be asked which government agency. If we select FHA, we have another question here. So again, it's important to know, even though you're going through and we're making selections, you can go ahead and change those selections at any time. All right, now I'm going to go through the rest of this section fairly quickly so we can go ahead and get to the rest of the report. So in this case, I'm going to add my borrower. You have the option for individual or legal entity. Individual, again, for the purpose of demo. I'm going to put Jane Doe here. She is the owner of public record. So here, you can manually add it, or you can just check the box for owner up here. We've got both options. Next subsection in here is contact information. The first contact in the form every single time is going to be for you, the appraiser. So this is where you would fill in your information. And you can also tab through, as you can see, I'm not using my mouse here. Any field that does not have the asterisk over it or next to it is not a required field. So you can fill it in if you feel it's necessary, but it's not required. And you'll notice there's field level validation in each of the fields to help you out with what exactly we're looking for. And I tabbed over into this one, which is why you saw that behavior. Again, I'll show I'm in this state credential. I'll hit the tab on my keyboard and it immediately moves me into the next section. So I'm just going to select a date here. And I continue through this section. This is a required field. I did a physical inspection of the interior, that inspection date. This calendar you can use as a tool, or you can just type in add contact information is where you can add additional roles. Now, if you've got an AMC, a client, if there's significant real property appraisal assistance, a supervisory appraiser, any of these options, this is where you're going to go ahead and add them in. In this case, got a client, the secondary role here, maybe it's an attorney, investor, lender, other. All other fields will give you a field to describe what that other is. But in this case, this is a lender. And in this case, I typed in the wrong thing. So I'm going to go back in here, click the correct option. So you can go back and forth however you see fit. My client did give me a reference ID on this. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that over into here. And that contact information has been added. Now, here's where I'd add any commentary for this particular section. Do I have any commentary to add that's relevant to assignment information? I do not at this time, nor do I have exhibits. So I'm going to hit the next button, and that's going to move me forward into the next section of the URAR. Again, you can go through and click any of these sections at any point, but when you hit the next button, it's going to naturally progress you through in the order that you see on the screen. All right, so now I'm in the subject property section, carried through the address that I have here. If I had an alternate address to add, I would click this plus button. If you click that in error, you didn't mean to add that, you can go ahead and click the trash icon. And now we start entering in additional information for the subject property. Now in this case, Hill County, my neighborhood name, Hilltop Hills, and then same exact thing as the assignment information. Some are drop downs, some are open fields where you can enter in your information. Others are just a selection to be made. In this case, this is not in a PUD. It is not a condominium. It is not a cooperative. It's not a condom. The property is not on Native American lands. Subject site owned in common. No. However, the homeowner is responsible for all exterior maintenance, so we're going to hit yes on that. As we said before, this is not a new construction. We do also know that the attachment type is detached, and we referenced earlier in the characteristics, this is a single family unit. So in this case, the units excluding ADUs is 1, just the subject property itself, the primary unit. ADUs, we've got none. Are there any outbuildings on the property? No, there are not. And we have no special tax assessments. So we'll keep progressing into the ownership rights subsection. Property rights appraised on this is fee simple. All rights included? Yes, they are. Here's where I can add my legal description. So let's say we're on lot 3, block 8, section 2 of Hilltop Hill. Now you can copy and paste whatever the legal description is from the subject and market research right into here as well. You're able to provide a document, an image of a document if needed in the select image picker here. If you wanted to upload a photo of the legal description, you're also able to add in any subject property commentary here. Got none for this particular property. And then we've got our exhibits. Now, this first one does not have a red asterisk, but the second one does, and that tells me that is a required photo. So we need a photo of the dwelling front. Let's grab that now. Click on select image. You can drag and drop, or you can just go ahead and click on the main section here to upload your photos. I'm just going to use some images from the GSE samples that they have provided. Let's go ahead and grab dwelling front. Now you'll notice in a lot of the image pickers a couple of different things, and I'll call them out along the way. In this one in particular, you can add a caption if you wish, but it's not required to. You can also select the size that it's going to render. Again, not required. All of these have default settings, but if you feel you need the image larger or you want to call out something specific and add a caption, you can do that. And see, we have nothing here because we didn't change anything, we didn't add anything. So in this case, I'm finished with the subject property section, and I'm going to hit the next button to progress into the next section. And that's going to be our site section. So that page is loaded up, and we'll get started on filling this in. In all of the drop-down fields, you can start typing to match an option, or you can just click on the arrow to see what's in here and use your mouse to go throughout. As you can see here, we've got a commentary box if you want to further describe, but it's not required. I don't see that asterisk next to it, so I'm going to go ahead and progress forward. I am required, however, to upload a photo of property access, so let's do that. Now you should notice in this image picker, there's immediately a caption at the top of the screen. There are certain images that require mandatory captions. We've taken care of that on the back end. You don't ever have to type that out. We will always have that applied for you. And when there's multiple options, you'll see it in the dropdown. In this case, it's just the one. So if you wanted to add something, you can, but it's not required. And same with the size of the image. This is specific to how it will render in the PDF, not in Workbench itself. So just know that no matter what size selected here, or if you don't choose one, it will always appear just like this. And we can see our system generated caption and the one that you manually added in. You can also go in and say, I no longer want that there. I think the property access street scene is sufficient. And that's been updated for you here. Now, continue to go throughout the page and add in data to complete this section. In almost all the tables, there's a plus button. If you need to add more information, you can use the red delete trash can icon to remove anything. If you have a photo to add for anything site influence wise, you can do it in here. In this case, I don't. Any commentary with regard to site influence can be added right in here. If you have additional influence, hit that plus button and continue to select. In this case, we do not. This lets you know immediately one primary view is required. So this question has to be answered. It's a yes. In this case, I do have an image of the view. And again, as you can see here, that mandatory caption is on here. No other selection, so that's the only one we need. And I do want to call out that this is, the view is residential. You'll notice some of the drop-downs are multi-select. We allow for that when the GSC requirements say you can have more than one. If the requirement only requires one answer, it's just a single select option. But in this case, it could be multi-select. No property restriction, no easement, no encroachment to report on. So we'll continue. No site characteristics either. Now we move on to utilities and impact to value and marketability. We do have broadband here. As far as ownership of utilities go, you'll see one for each, and you are able to add multiple if you've got scenarios where it's both. In this case, for this property, all of these utilities are public. No additional commentary to add. No DDD for the site and for the property at all for that matter, but we'll go ahead and select that. If you have additional images that you want to add to the exhibits page, this is where we would do that. I'm all set based on this property type, so I'm going to hit next, and we're going to progress into the next section of the URAR. Now I didn't move forward as I clicked that next button. That means I may have missed a field. So I'm going to scroll back up and see if I've got any fields that are called out as required that I missed. And there are 2. So in this case, it was for the view. The range of the view is full, impact neutral. Now, just in case, I'm going to double check there was nothing else I missed. No. Okay, let's go back down and hit next. Now I should see my page load and go into the next section of the URAR. Disaster mitigation. This page is generally a quick one to go through. Only 2 options here really at first, because I select none, which in the case of this report we are building, there is none. There are no additional questions to answer, and we can progress to the next section. Energy efficient and green features. There are 3 required questions here, but for my report that I'm building, the answer is no for each. Therefore, I don't have any additional required questions that need to be completed. There is still an exhibit section and a commentary, even if you are answering no to questions. That way you can report on anything specific to this section. But for this was an easy one, so we can go ahead and hit next. Now we're in the sketch section. Is a sketch or floor plan provided? Yes. Select which measurement standards. And right now you're able to upload an image of your completed sketch or your completed floor plan in either one of these locations. So I'm going to go ahead and add a sketch image. We go into here. Now for the sketch image, you don't have to change anything about the rendering size. It's always going to be a large on the PDF, so the full sketch displays. And if there's any commentary that you wanted to add with regard to it, this is where you would do so. Okay, I'll hit next and we'll progress into the next section of the URAR. So now we're going to go into the dwelling exterior. This is where you would add multiple dwellings if you in fact have them. Now we said earlier, this is a single family residence, so we have one dwelling. If we had multiple and you had specific names for them, this is where you would change that. In this case, I'm going to leave the default to dwelling one. Again, we only have one unit here. This is where I'll go ahead and fill in the rest of the information, this property style. Again, the list that's in here and all of the drop-down lists are based on GSE numerations that we can provide to you. This is ground level for front door elevation, year built, 2018. It is not an estimate. And this is site built. This is another one of those instances I mentioned earlier, multi-select. We've just got the one though, so I'll go ahead and click outside of that. There's no converted area here. As far as my exterior quality rating, Q4, and my exterior condition rating, C3. Now, if I want to add exterior features, I'll go ahead and click this button here, and you'll see this table. You can add as many as you'd like using this button. I'm going to go ahead and start off with reporting on the exterior walls and trim. We've got a comment box for quality, a comment box for condition. Then we've also got our details for the wall material. So this one had two. We're going to say brick and wood. The status, typical wear and tear. So now the next feature I want to report on is the foundation. Again, quality comment box, condition comment box. This is a poured concrete, multi-select, so we have to click out of it. The foundation style is a slab, multi-select again, click out of that. Our status, typical wear and tear. And I can just continue to add all of the tables for the exterior features that I'm reporting on. The roof was observable upon inspection. Asphalt, 1 to 10 years. This is new or like new. Now I'll report on the windows. Here is no drop down, no selection to be made. Go ahead and add that these were vinyl. Thermal pane, double hung. Quality comment with their standard materials. No comment on condition, typical wear and tear. And I continue to go through this table. Now, if I added anything in error, I could just hit the delete button. I'm not going to do that in this case because I do want to report on this, and we'll keep going. Mechanical system details, heating system. For this particular subject property, it's forced warm air, natural gas. If you had another heating system to add, this is where you would do it. Their permanent cooling, although this is not a required question, I am reporting on it because yes, there was. It's important for the report. It's centralized. This home had a water heater. This is multi-select, so you can select as many as apply. For the dwelling exterior, any apparent defects, damages, and deficiencies? Nope, there were none here. If I have additional commentary to add, I would do so here. Now, as you can see, dwelling front photo is not required here. That's because we grabbed it earlier, so we don't need it again. We'll apply it everywhere that it needs to be applied. But if you wanted to add more of the front, the rear, if you had any images of the dwelling exterior that you wanted to provide, this is where you would do that. Now at the bottom of the screen, I'll briefly speak about it, but since we are doing a single family residence, these don't apply. This is where you would add an additional dwelling for this report. If you accidentally added too many, you could also delete the dwelling. You're also able to add additional units for this one single dwelling. Doing that is going to take you into the unit interior, so you can complete the unit interior section for that if you have multiple. This is a single family path, so in this case, we finish the entire dwelling exterior, and me hitting next is going to move me into the next section. Now, this shows manufactured on this side, but it knows not to send me there because I did not select manufactured home as the type of report we were working on. So it skips over that and immediately goes into unit interior. Now, very similar to the dwelling exterior page, we also have a unit identifier on the unit interior page. Again, this is more helpful when we've got multiple dwellings, multiple units, and we need unique names or numbers or letters if we're reporting on unit A, B, C, D, etc. This is where we would change the names so that we could easily read and identify those. Again, in this case, we've got one dwelling and one unit. No change is necessary here. So I'll go ahead and go through all of the required fields and enter in the data necessary. Again, keeping an eye out for required fields versus non-required fields. Now, just because a field is not required does not mean you have to skip it. But if it doesn't apply to what you're reporting on, then you can. And now I'm going to tab through these. Half baths. This question is not relevant. This question is not relevant. So I'll continue to go through level and room details. Click the button to add. We've just got the single level here, so we're going to add level 1, above grade. That finished area, all 1,260 square feet. We'll go ahead and add the data in here. For bedrooms, I've got 3. No breakfast room, no den. 1 dining room, no family room. We've got 2 full baths, no half baths, 1 kitchen, and 1 living room. Everything else you can leave as is. You're just adding in the room counts of each that you have per level. And then here's where you can also add in the photos of each of those. So here we'll go ahead and add that. So here we'll go ahead and add these. So this is a bath photo, level 1, bedroom photo, level 1, and you'll go ahead and go through and select the correct caption for each of these. And once we've got all of our labels applied, you can see this photo is selected as orange. We want to select all of the photos. Maybe you accidentally imported more than you want in your report, but you want to make sure you click in and that they are highlighted in orange. That means they are going to be in your report. If you accidentally clicked on one you didn't need, just go ahead and click it again and we'll take it off. These are those mandatory captions we were talking about earlier, right? So it's going to apply the label you select there. And then this This will be where you can add an additional caption. So let's say in this particular instance, this is the primary bath. This is a bedroom. Let's say this is the primary bedroom. Kitchen, don't need an additional caption there. This is the third bedroom, dining room, living room, and this is the bath too. All right, we'll hit done on that. I've got level 1 bath, full primary, primary bedroom, second bedroom, third bedroom, second full bath here. We should be good to go with moving forward. We also have the dining room and the living room in these photos. So all of our photos have been added. Now here's where we can go ahead and add our interior quality and condition rating. Next, we'll add our kitchen and bathroom details. We already added the images above, so if you have additional images, you can add them here, or you can go ahead and skip this and just get to the room information. So we'll start the kitchen. It's not been updated. Typical wear and tear. Quality comment box and a condition comment box. Neither are required. We'll go ahead and come in here and now add in bath. Overall status for our bathrooms, they weren't updated. Then we get into other interior features. So now we're in flooring. For flooring, got the same output, not updated. Here's where I'm going to select all my different flooring type. Now you do have to add the flooring table for each flooring type. This is not a multi-select because the questions will vary based on the answers. So carpet, if we had a quality comment we wanted to add, this is where we would do it. If we had a condition comment to add, this is where we would do it. This is where we could add photos specifically of that if we wanted to. Now this particular subject had more than just carpet as a flooring type. So here I'm going to add the second one, which was ceramic tile. Okay. Now we move on to walls and ceiling. Or ceiling height. It's going to be the same. If you've got multiple ceiling heights throughout the subject, you'll need to add it through using this button. And you're reporting in this box for specifically the 8 feet ceiling type. All right, no additional comments here. And then no additional images to add for me on this. Very similar to the dwelling exterior where I showed you how you can add additional dwellings. This is where you would add additional units if there were multiple units in the structure. In this case, we don't have additional units, so we're going to hit next and we'll progress into the next section. Next section is functional obsolescence. There's one single required question, unless we change our answer here, but mine is no for this subject property. As you can see, no additional required questions here, so we'll hit next, and we'll progress into the next section. Again, here you're going to see outbuilding, but earlier we told it there is no outbuilding for this report, so we're going to go right into vehicle storage instead. This is always here in case you need to go back and report on something. Maybe you missed something. Maybe you incorrectly selected an option and you need to change it. So we still display all of the section names for you at this time. So you can go back and do that. Vehicle storage. In this case, we do have vehicle storage that we want to report on. So we're going to select yes, and we'll go ahead and add what that vehicle storage is. Very similar to some of the other pages here, you're going to add each one with this click of a button here. Now this first storage type, driveway. And in this case, we only have one storage option, but if you've got multiple, you continue to click this button to report them all. Driveway. There are not 10 or more parking spots. There are 3. This is on concrete. No defects, damages, or deficiencies with the driveway. Nothing additional to add here. We'll hit next. Subject property amenities. Now at the start of this, I said this particular home does have a deck. So this is where we would report that. We do have subject property amenities. This is an outdoor living amenity. We'll check that box. When we check that box, we'll see a table specific to that. And it's going to be the same for each of these. Say you've got multiple, and go ahead and select that, and your answers, or your options will change for what you can select. I'm going to deselect that because for this, we just have outdoor living. We've got the deck. It's made of wood, and it's about 168 square feet. There were no defects, damages, or deficiencies for that. We'll go ahead and import our photo of the deck here. Make sure we change this. It's not an airstrip, a deck. You can add to additional caption if you wish. In this case, deck is sufficient. We'll hit next. We should progress into the next section of the report, which is going to be overall quality and condition. All right, and here we're going to select our overall quality and condition rating for exterior and interior. Overall, specific to exterior and interior. And commentary regarding that quality and condition. Next, and we'll progress into highest and best use. All right, you can see this is a quick list of questions for us to go through. Legally permissible, yes. Physically responsible, yes. Financially feasible, yes. Maximally productive, yes. Is the highest and best use of the subject property as improved the present use? Yes. Any commentary that you want to call out here or reference, any images that you feel are necessary, this is where we would report on those. For this particular report, good to leave those blank. I'm going to go ahead and hit next, and we'll progress into the market section. All right, Got started on the market section. I added in my market boundary description, my search criteria description. Now we'll go ahead and start entering in our search results metrics. Oop, I entered the wrong data point here. 12 months, 43 sales. Okay. Graphs I'm going to include in this report is the price trend graph. I did MLS. If you wanted to add additional data sources, you can. Go ahead and remove that second one. The name of the MLS will say the purpose. This. Any commentary that you want to add is supporting that price trend that we selected, specific to that right here, because the comment section is really for the whole section, right? But this here is unique to just the price trend analysis if you have additional comments to add. Housing trends is the next subsection, demand, supply, and marketing time. And here's our commentary section. We'll fix that. And each graph that you can add in here has its own image picker to select. So we said price trend, we're going to add it right here. Again, if we selected for some reason this an error, this is how we would know we're only in the price trend section because it's the only option to choose. And go ahead and hit next, and we'll move on to the next section, which is subject listing information. Only question listed, are there current or relevant listings of the subject property? We did a minimum of a 1-year look back as required. Nope, there are none. MLS was how we determined that. Next section is going to be prior sale and transfer history. For the prior sales or transfers of the subject property, we did a minimum of 3-year look back as required. If there are, we say yes. In this case, there was a builder sale of the subject property, so we're going to report that. This from MLS. It was a sale. The only one. Okay. Now we come into comparable transfer history. Got 3 here, so got to add. For the first one, was there anything? Nope, there was nothing. Confirm that through MLS. Comp 2, there was a sale. Typically motivated. Date according to my MLS. And one more. 3 did not. And then any comments we want to add here. We'll hit next. That should send us into the first part of our SCA. All right, now we've loaded our sales comparison approach. This is going to be the largest portion of the URAR. There's a lot of different pages, a lot of data to add. Currently, all information that we have for the subject property that can carry over does carry over, and the comparable information is manual entry at this time. So we're going to go ahead and get started on filling in all of the information for the subject property first, and then we'll come back up for comps 1, 2, and 3. And then I'll also show you, if you had more comps, how you would add those or remove them if you added some by accident. So again, first we'll start with subject property data and going through this first column. Okay, so I'll go through subject property first. Again, required questions, they have the asterisk next to them. Optional, do not. So in this case, it carried over the answer for, is the homeowner responsible for all exterior maintenance? Carried over the address. We click into the image. It carried over the image as well for the subject property. Since this is for a comparable, it doesn't reflect here. Same for many of these data items. If we want to add to any of this data, we can, right? Again, some of this information was filled out before on other pages, but not all of it. Minimum sales concessions. In this case, this is a refinance. Days on market. This is a field that we didn't have previously. It's at a 0. Again, this is a refinance. It's not on the market currently, so we can go ahead and remove that 0. It saved that it was detached. Property rights are fee simple. No for this answer. Yes for this. And all of the rest of the fields that are here are additional rows. So if there's something you wish to report on and you want to manually type that in here, you can do so and then specify, there's just an example, what that would be. And once I remove that, then that required field is no longer there. There are adjustment rows as well for each of the items as you add them. We scroll down to the bottom, we see our 3 comps. The SCA will always default to the minimum of 3. Of course, you can add more and you can change the order of your comparables, or you can remove them if you have more than 3 and you didn't mean to. Right now, we're going to get started on our first 3 comps, and then we'll go through reordering, adding, or removing. Let's go back to comp 1. In this case, answer is yes. Now, how you choose to fill this out is up to you. I know for all 3 of my comps that the answer is going to be yes here, so I'm just going to go ahead and quickly answer that for all 3, and then I'll enter in my comparable addresses. Now, another thing you can do is you go throughout, if they're all in the same city, we can just copy and paste through each one. They're all in the same state, and I'm tabbing through and typing in to spell out Tennessee, or you can go through this way. Ever your preferences for how you work through, completely up to you as far as, using the mouse or using the keyboard to go through and complete your order. Now we'll go ahead and add our image for comparable 1. You won't see it in this view here, but once you click on select image, you can go back and confirm it's there if you need to. If you don't see it in here and you want to just confirm, you checked the box that it's orange, because remember, if it's not orange, it won't save. If it's orange, it does save. Got all my images. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in my data required for each of these comparables. We'll start with comp 1. Now I'll move on to comp 2. We move on to comp 3. Completed all of my general information for the SCA. Now, one thing to note about our sales comparison approach in Workbench, it is broken out per subsection. So we've got general information, if it wasn't a project, project information, site. These are all the different subsections that could exist for the SCA. So it's not all on one single page, which is sometimes going back and forth, we understand can be a little bit challenging, but it's important to note there's so much information on each section that this is the way that we've broken out to be most helpful for you. So the SCA in Workbench is broken out per section. So again, this is the general information. So we'll hit next to navigate into the next subsection of the report. Now, there are fields that are required here that will limit us from moving forward. For example, let's go ahead and hit this next button and I'll show you. If the page doesn't begin to load immediately, chances are there's a missed required field. Now for us, we were good to go, so we're going to go ahead and progress into the site subsection. And you'll see the exact same across in each of these sections: subject property, comp 1, 2, and 3. We'll go ahead and add the information, review the subject property, and see if there's anything else we can add here. Okay, all my data did come over. We're good to go there. So let's fill in comp 1. Now I can go ahead and move to the next subsection, or I can go ahead and apply my adjustments in here. Now, I know typically we like to see all of the information before we do that, just depending on your preference. So we'll need to come back in here and add the appropriate adjustments subsection by subsection. But I'm going to keep navigating through before I apply any adjustments and go ahead and complete the rest of the data required. So nothing to reorder here. Comps 1 through 3, I've got them in the order that I would like them to be in. So I'm going to hit next so we can navigate. And there's a prompt here. The current page has invalid answers. Would you like to submit or would you like to correct? So let's correct the answers. Let's see what was invalid. one of the subject property questions. We'll come back through. Oh, and I missed a unit of measure. There we go. Now we'll hit next. So it should prompt you when you've got missing fields. You can either continue to go forward or you can go back and fix any of the items that need to be resolved. So we've got data for the overall dwelling, SCA for the overall dwelling. We scroll through here. We will see our overall quality and condition for the subject and comparables. Overall, the subject property. Right. So we've got our overall dwelling details. None of these are reportable for me for this particular report that I'm working on, but right below I've got overall quality and condition, which I do need to add for everything. So we'll go ahead and fill in this information for subject in all the comps. Now we are in the SCA unit page. So in here, I'm just going to confirm that the data I want for the subject property carried over. I can also add in additional data if I want to report on it. In this first column, we've always got additional rows as well. We also have our interior quality and condition on this page. So let's go back through and see what's new on this page. Now on the unit page, there's a field called structure identifier and unit identifier. This is especially helpful for multi-unit and multi-dwelling instances. In this particular case, this is a single family, so we know there's one dwelling, it's a single unit. And because these aren't required fields, because they're not multi-unit and we don't need to identify them, I'm going to go ahead and remove for this use case. You can leave them if you want, but in this case, I don't need those to be identified here. Okay, so I've got my subject property, it's just one unit. My bed bath count did carry over. My finished area above grade also carried over. Finished area below grade, unfinished area below grade. I do want to report on both of those for the subject and all. I don't have additional items at this time. Okay, let me go ahead and come back up and we'll finish entering in the same data for comps 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now that I've done the unit information on this, we've also combined the interior quality and condition on this page for us to go through and add all of the ratings and features if we are going to be reporting on those. In this case, no features to report on. We're just going to do a simple quality and condition rating for the subject as well as the comparables for interior. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, now that we've completed that, if we needed to reorder anything or add a comparable, remove anything, we could do it here. We've only got our 3, so nothing to remove. We'll go ahead and hit this next button to progress into the next section. Okay, now we are in property amenities. This one, again, was very simple because the subject property just had the deck to report. So now we'll report any amenities for comps 1, 2, and 3. Comp 1 didn't have anything to report on. Comp 2 has a deck. Comp 3 has a deck and a portico. So we're going to add those now. Okay, and you've probably noticed I haven't been applying any adjustments yet. Of course, we'll do that. We can go back through each page and add those. In this case, we're just showing how to add all of the data in each section, but every line, as you have seen, has an adjustment here as well. So let's use this, for example. This is where I could go ahead and indicate, since there is a difference in the amenity here, negative $2,500 adjustment for that. Again, any other items that need to be reported, we would do so here. Same options for reordering, adding, or removing. But since this one was fairly simple, we're done here. So we're going to go ahead and hit next to progress into the next section. All right, now we are in the vehicle storage page, and it does look like there's some information that didn't fully carry over. So we're always verifying the information in the subject property column. In this case, our subject property has a driveway, but it had 3 spaces and it looks like the material did not come through. So let's go ahead and update this. 3 spaces, concrete, nothing additional to add here. And let's go ahead and add the vehicle storage for the comparables as well. Now comp 3 has more than just the driveway that the other 2 had. We'll add both of them here, both of the options that they had. So there is a driveway, 3 spaces, concrete is our material, but there is a second vehicle storage here, and that is also a garage. And the square footage is unknown for that garage, so we're going to go ahead and leave that blank and hit the next button so we can progress into the next section. And now we've made it into the SCA summary page. This is where we're going to do our adjustment calculations. This is where we see our comparable list price and sale price carried over. Now, I want to call attention to all of the adjustment fields here. We did not enter in any throughout this report. Of course, that's not an accurate way to go through and fill in. We can go back on those pages and add in our adjustments or zeros as we see fit. This page is not currently set up to calculate totals for you. These are manual fields where you will have to enter totals in at this point. That is being worked on. That will change, but I want to make sure users understand that these fields do require manual input for calculations for adjustments at this time. To do that, we'll manually add in the calculations here. So for comp 1, had I gone through and added each adjustment, my net adjustment total for comp 1 would be 13,000. My price per finished area above grade is what I'm reporting on here. 279. Now my adjusted price. And this comp weight is less. I'm going to do the same thing for comps 2 and 3. As I scroll down, my last field, indicated value by sales comparison approach for the subject property. Hit next. Any comments with regard to reconciliation can be added in here. I'll add test comment. But of course, you add what's relevant to the report that you are building. Once we're finished with our comments, we can hit next. That should take us into the additional properties analyzed and not used. If you don't have any that were considered for this report, you just need to hit the trash can button to remove all of these. In this case, there was one that I'm going to add here. Okay, now that I've added the single property that was analyzed but not used for this particular report, I can hit the next button. Again, you can easily remove these by hitting the delete trash can icon. You can add more by hitting the add button. For this particular instance, there's one. It will stop you from progressing next if you add one and leave it blank because it's assuming that these are required. You're saying there's one more that was analyzed but not used. So again, you want to remove it if you're not going to report on it. All right, we'll click the next button. That should take us into our sales comparison map where we can add the image of the map that you created. We'll hit next. Now we're in the final exhibit section of the sales comparison approach. If there are additional exhibits that need to be added, we can do that in supplemental. But for the SCA, these are really just our comp photos, right? We added them earlier in the general information when we started in the sales comparison approach. So these photos carried over comp 1, comp 2, and comp 3. So if you needed to change them, you would just hit the select image and search for the photo by clicking in this box here to add whatever photo necessary. Remember, if the photo is not orange in the outline, that means it's not selected. If it is orange in the outline, then it is selected and it is in the image picker. So we've got our 3 comp photos. We'll go ahead and hit next. And that should take us into the reconciliation section. Okay, in this case, we've got our sales comparison approach indicated value. We don't have anything that carried over for income approach or cost approach, so we'll just go ahead and add our reason for excluding here. In this case, just was not necessary for credible results. And we'll just continue to fill in the required fields here for us to complete this assignment. When we scroll down to the additional required fields, we've got our reconciliation of market value comment fields. This is where you can utilize this subsection for additional commentary. Now we have this as is overall condition rating. Final question here. This may look as though it's under apparent defects, damages, and deficiencies. It's not. The summary of this is pulled from all the other sections, so you'll see in your PDF that there are none, but this question is just below that table, so that's why it appears this way in the UI. So we'll just go ahead and add our final overall condition rating here. Now we're in our revision history section. This is our first created report, so this is version 1. I'm not adding a revision just yet, so we'll hit next through this. Here we have supplemental information, any additional images that you need to add in here, you can do so. There are none to report on for this assignment, so we'll hit next. All right, now we are on the final page, which is our certification and scope of work. In here, there are a few questions in each of the subsections, just quick yes or no's. Of course, you also can add additional text here if there's an additional intended use, users, but we'll just go through and fill this out again based on this assignment. So for the scope of work, it is the standard that's printed here. There's no additional scope of work from the client, so I'll check that no box. As far as intended use, no additional intended use. This is intended for the use. User of this report is the lender client. No additional users. And then we have the printed definition of market value. None of this is editable. This is all going to print in your certifications page every time. Same goes for the statement of assumptions and limiting conditions. In these two fields, if you ever have any questions, concerns, or if something is not printing as you feel it should per the GSE's guides, you can always submit a feedback modal update to us and let us know that there is something that looks off there. We'll get that, we'll make adjustments. But those are printed based on the GSE specs. Then we get into our appraiser certification. So we do have all of the pre-printed ones in here, just a couple, you want to go through and verify every time, but some answers that would change in here are going to be for numbers 10. As you can see, 9 goes right to 11. This is actually the 10th question. And once you answer it, then it will appear. So we'll hit interior and exterior. We see our 10th question appear, and it is reading the way that it should since I selected interior and exterior. We're making changes. Our statement changes here as well. So we'll go back to interior and exterior on this assignment. If there was significant real property appraisal assistance, you would add the name of that contact here. In this case, we didn't have any. No one provided significant real property appraisal assistance on this assignment. We also have another question here for if there were any prior services performed within the last 3 years. We'll go ahead and select no, and that changed our number 29 answer. If I say yes, then we can go ahead and provide a description of it. But again, the answer on this is no. There are additional appraiser certifications. Hit yes and add them in here. In this case, there are none. Go ahead and add my info and create our signature. And there's my signature for the report. End of filling in your URAR. Now you can go back, change any information before you hit the next button. This next button is going to push you into the next page, which we will cover in another training session for conditional relevance. And that is the last page of your URAR. We're now in the SCA general information page. This is our sales comparison approach. As a reminder, we can get to this by completing the previous section and hitting the next button to progress into the sales comparison approach, or we can manually navigate into any of these subsections at any point in time. Now, for this particular demo, we're going to show you how you can rearrange your comparables, how you would add comparables, or how you would remove comparables from any of the SCA pages. To start, we'll see here that I only have street addresses so that we're keeping track of what it is that's changing when we make these adjustments. So the first thing we're going to show is how to rearrange comparables. I'm going to take 1, 2, 3 something place and move it from comp 3 into comp 1. In order to do that, we'll want to come down to our rearrange table. And we can drag and drop the comparable that we want to, any of the comparables that we want to rearrange. In this example, we said we're going to take comp 3 and put it in the 1 position. Now I'll click Reorder Comparables and the Next button. What I expect to see is a prompt. This prompt is saying you have blank fields. Do you want to finish that now or finish them later? We know we only have the addresses, so this is to be expected. Click Complete Later so we can see those rearrangements happening in our table. Now we can see comp 3, which previously was 1, 2, 3 something place, is now in comp 1, and comp 2 and comp 3 did shift as well. So very simple to rearrange. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and add a comparable.
do that, we'll scroll back down to our action buttons, click on the Add Comparable button. Now it's going to ask you, where would you like to put it? Do you want to put it before a comp or after a comp? In this case, I'm going to put it in the number 1 spot. So I'm going to put before comp 1. And same trigger here, we'll want to hit the next button to make that action happen. Again, we expect to see this notification letting us know we still have fields to complete. If you had already finished the data items in here that were required, this prompt wouldn't appear. But again, since we did not complete our comparables, that's why that's appearing. And as it loads, I've got a new comparable, and it's blank here because this is my added comp, and I see everything shifted downward. And let's say I added that comp in error and I want to remove it. We'll scroll back down and click the Remove Comparables button. You'll see a very similar prompt here. Which one do we want to get rid of? And do we want to delete the data, which is delete and keep gaps, or do we just want to delete the whole thing? I actually no longer have 4 comps. I only have the 3. I just want to delete that entire row. For this example, I'm going to delete the entire row. We don't need to keep the gaps here. And we'll just remove that comp that we just added. Hit next. There's our prompt we knew we were going to see. We'll hit complete later. As that loads, I expect to see 3 comps now, no longer 4, and our addresses that we had. So that is how you can rearrange your comparables, you can delete comparables, and you can add comparables in ACI Sky Workbench.